Hello Yu-Gi-Oh players and welcome to Yu-Gi-Oh! Business Casual. I'm your host, the RJB0. So a few days ago, Patrick Hoban beat me to the chase on talking about Marginal Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, I found the article really enjoyable. I got a lot out of it. I found it really informative, but then again, I am a colossal economics nerd, so I feel like my opinion on the subject is kind of invalid, and I did talk to a lot of people who felt really bogged down by the article. They couldn't get through it because they couldn't enjoy it or they felt like they didn't understand it, and that is not a problem with the article or with the players. Some people just don't like applying numbers to their Yu-Gi-Oh! Theory because they don't want to turn Yu-Gi-Oh! From their hobby into a science, and that's absolutely a-okay. It doesn't mean that you're bad at math or anything, it just means that you don't enjoy numbers so much. Some people just found the sheer amount of econ, babble, and jargon that was in it a little bit difficult to get through. So in the interest of allowing you guys to get as much out of that article as possible, because I think that it was really great to help us improve our competitive play, and I have kind of an ulterior motive because I want to make videos in the future talking about how to take Marginal Yu-Gi-Oh! Out of just theorio and deck building and actually apply it to gameplay and how to improve your competitive play when you're actually in the game. So I want to get people more interested in those things. I wanted to give you guys a quick crash course on Marginal Yu-Gi-Oh! Through an English translator so that it makes a little more sense for you guys. So the first question that we have to answer when talking about Marginal Yu-Gi-Oh! Is, well, what's Marginal Yu-Gi-Oh! So Marginal Yu-Gi-Oh! Is when you take the economic theory of marginal analysis and apply it to the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, marginal analysis sounds like a bunch of just charts and numbers and stuff like that, but it's actually just a really simple theory, which says that everything that you buy, everything that you sell, everything that you build, every card that you put into your deck has an ideal amount. It has a perfect number for you to make or to buy or to build or to put into your deck. And you can test that amount. You can use play testing to determine how many of each category of card or each specific card you want to have in your deck. Now, I have my own theory about that when it comes to specific cards, which is my 1, 2, 3 theory, which says that 1 is tech, 2 is consistency, 3 is dependency, but it's a little more in-depth and complex than that. The example that Patrick Hoban gives uses cards that are good early game and bad against established fields. He uses Hieratic Seal from the Ashes and Reckless Greed. And he says that the ideal number for those cards that are good early game, bad against established fields, is 3. Now, how do you find out what that perfect amount is? Well, the example that my economics teacher gave me back in college was pie at Thanksgiving. Now, this sounds just super weird, but stick with me for a second. So imagine it's Thanksgiving and it comes time for you to have some pie. And you've been waiting for this all day. You are super psyched to have some pie. So you have your first piece and it is awesome. But you want more. So you go back for a second piece. Maybe you had pumpkin the first time, you want to have cherry or apple this time. So you have another piece, and that one is almost as good as the first one, but you still aren't quite satisfied yet. So you go in for a third piece, and that's the one that hits the spot. You feel absolutely satisfied after your third piece. But then you see that there's a little pie left over, and you think, hey, it's Thanksgiving, everybody pigs out on Thanksgiving, why not? So you take another piece and you eat it, and then you feel sick. Now, you realized that you should probably have stopped at that third piece of pie because that was your ideal piece. Through the eyes of marginal analysis, you are thinking if you only had 2 pieces, you weren't quite satisfied, but once you had 4 pieces, you felt terrible, so your ideal point was you got the most utility, you got the most enjoyment out of that third piece of pie. And the same thing applies to Yu-Gi-Oh! You know that you have the perfect number of a certain category or specific card when taking a copy of that card out of your deck would hurt your deck more than it would help it, but adding another copy of that card or another card out of that category would hurt it just as much. That's when you know that you have found your ideal point. Now, we do this all the time in Yu-Gi-Oh! This is something that we just do constantly. You hear from it in deck profiles, but we just don't realize what we're doing. When you're playing a deck and you realize that a card is getting too cloggy, you take out a copy for another card. That's marginal Yu-Gi-Oh! When you're playing your deck and a card and you don't see enough of one of your more important cards, then you add a copy. Once again, that's marginal Yu-Gi-Oh! Now we all do it all the time, so what is the use of studying it? Well, once you are aware of how marginal Yu-Gi-Oh works and how you do marginal analysis, you can apply it more specifically and you can be more aware of it, which means you're going to get better results. One way that you can do that is, instead of trying to play test your deck for a broad range of things you want to try and change, you can play test for a specific thing. For instance, if you're thinking, does my deck have the right number of defensive traps in it? You can play a few games where you just focus on whether or not you have the right number of defensive trap cards in your deck. And let's say you have too many. Let's say you draw your defensive trap cards more than you draw into your monsters. Then you take out a copy of a defensive trap card and you add in a monster. Or if you find out that you don't have enough, you can add in another copy and take out something that you don't get as much utility out of. Yeah. Now, utility is a word that you're going to hear Patrick Hoban say a lot in his articles. He says it a lot specifically in this article. He says it basically every sentence. And what utility is the amount of satisfaction or use that you get out of an item. In this case, with cards, it's the amount that a certain card helps you at a certain time. For example, if you don't have a field and you don't have a hand and you're just down to top decking, what is going to be more useful to you? A dark hole or a solemn warning? Chances are the solemn warning is going to be less useful to you than the dark hole. That means that the dark hole gives you more utility than a solemn warning. So that's just what the word utility means. So once you know what marginal Yu-Gi-Oh is, and I hope that you got that out of this video, you can start play testing specifically for certain aspects of the game without worrying about other ones, and that'll give you a really clear picture as to what your ideal number for a certain category of card is. So if you haven't read Hoban's Marginal Yu-Gi-Oh yet, this is a great time to do it now that you've seen this. I will have the link in the description below, and I hope you guys get as much out of that article and out of Marginal Yu-Gi-Oh as I did. Meanwhile, I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, hit that thumbs up button. If you didn't, let me know why in the comments section below. And of course, subscribe for more decks, discussion, analysis, and general Yu-Gi-Oh shenanigans. And also, if you have any questions, ask me down below. I will probably be able to answer them if they're about marginal analysis, because that was my favorite subject in economics. But also just discuss what you guys think of this theory in general. Meanwhile, thank you guys for watching Yu-Gi-Oh! And Business Casual. I'm your host, the RJB0, and I got a jet. See you guys.